Yoshi! Yoshi!
Nah, whatever. Yoshi hardly needs an introduction, but if you're fresh from the Cretaceous period, he, or she, is a dinosaur in the Mario universe who can eat enemies and gain abilities. Yoshi was first introduced in Super Mario World for the Super Nintendo released August of 1991. In that game, Yoshi hatched out of an egg for Mario to hop on and ride, adding a new dynamic to an already near-perfect platforming game. Not to mention, Yoshi was cute, and was a dinosaur. Kids love dinosaurs. Yoshi was such a draw that the sequel to Super Mario World was a prequel called Yoshi's Island, and that place was lousy with Yoshis. Gamers were swept up in Yoshi mania. If you or your parents couldn't quite afford that brand new Super Nintendo just yet, no sweat. Yoshi was on the way to the NES you already have in your living room, and not just one, but 2 games.
There's nowhere to run. There's nowhere to hide. 'Cause here comes Yoshi. And he's up against Goombas, Bloopers, Boo Buddies, and Piranha Plants in Nintendo's new stack and sandwich puzzle game called Yoshi. Match the creatures and wipe them out. Play alone or with a friend, but mix them and you won't stand a chance. It's challenging, overwhelming. It's Yoshi, the new puzzle game for Game Boy or NES, system and game each sold separately. Now you're playing with power.
NES Yoshi, known as Mario and Yoshi in Europe and Yoshi's Egg in Japan, turned out to be a Dr. Mario / Tetris style, or dare I say Tetresque, tile matching game that features next to no bopping around on the adorable dinosaur. In fact, Yoshi just stands there and counts eggs. This was a way too obvious attempt by Nintendo to sell a game based on a name, and there were more than a handful of kids disappointed when they realized it wasn't what they had imagined. And that's too bad, because the game is fine. It's a tile matching game, but with a twist. Literally, Mario twists at the bottom to swap the stacks around. There are 2 modes of play, A and B, 2 speeds, high and low, 5 different levels to start from, and 3 different music tracks to choose. Mode A is most like Tetris. You just keep going and going. Create a certain number of eggs to advance a level, which happens without transition like Tetris or Dr. Mario. Here you just want to make sure your stacks don't reach the top. 2 like objects, which are common Mario enemies, the Goomba, Blooper, Boo, and Piranha Plant, must be stacked together to disappear. To advance, you need to create eggs, so place a bottom shell when it drops, stack as many different enemies on it as you want before getting a top shell to flatten it all down for extra points. It's a fun twist on the formula, and if not for the eggs, there really would be no reason at all to feature Yoshi. The enemies drop faster as the levels go, and sometimes the game randomly bursts in difficulty with quicker drops, or by dropping 3 enemies or shells at a time instead of the usual 2. Mode B is the one I prefer. You gotta clear each level. You start with some rows already filled in, and you match enemies until none are left to advance to the next stage. Unlike Mode A, there's a transition between stages and a sense of accomplishment when you wipe out the screen. Yoshi is especially fun in multiplayer mode. Matches are quick, and not a lot of skill is required by either person to make matches competitive. So the dinosaur platformer featuring Yoshi we wanted was just another puzzle game. Certainly Nintendo learned from that, and would give us die-hard NES and Yoshi fans what we really wanted.
Like your cookies! I know your cookies! It's happening everywhere! Confection craziness! Baked goods fattiness! Cookiness! New Yoshi cookie! Yoshi and Mario have a cookie factory gone mad! Only you can help sort them, stack them, and make them disappear! 1 player, 2 players, or 4! Yoshi's Cookie on NES and Game Boy!
Well, it's a good thing I like cookies, even if these look nothing like any cookie I've ever eaten. At least in Yoshi, he's an avatar in the lower corner. Here, you just get Mario. Where is Yoshi? Wait, what are the cookies made out of? But once again, Yoshi Cookie is a fine game, especially the 2-player mode. The point of the game is to slide the rows and columns of cookies around so that an entire row, or entire column, make up a single type of cookie. Do this, and that row or column disappear. Clear the screen, beat the level. Cookies are flying in from both directions, so you gotta be quick. It all plays out sorta like a delicious Rubik's Cube. There are 10 levels to choose from, 3 speeds, and once again 3 musical tracks. I prefer playing the game in versus mode, as the added element of racing against someone else to clear the most rows of cookies raises the stakes. Honestly, the single player mode tends to get boring rather quick. But it's a pretty simple game. Fun fact, creator of Tetris, Alexei Bajitnov, assisted in the design of the puzzles. Aside from that, there's just not more to say about Yoshi's Cookie. It's another tile-matching puzzle game. When it comes down to it, Yoshi and Yoshi's Cookie are fantastic tile-matching puzzle games. If you're into games like this, these two are among the best on the NES. I prefer Yoshi for the single-player mode and Yoshi's Cookie for the versus mode. If you like these games, there are a ton of games like them on the NES I'll cover eventually, but other versions of these games exist on the Game Boy and Super Nintendo. Yoshi and Yoshi Cookie are largely unchanged on the Game Boy. The Yoshi Cookie on Super Nintendo has a different mode called Puzzle, where you have limited turns to clear each set of cookies. It's kinda neat. If you want more Yoshi not in puzzle form, then you have to go to the Super Nintendo for Super Mario World 1 and 2, and Yoshi Safari that requires the Super Scope light gun to play, where you ride Yoshi and murder unsuspecting creatures while on a safari. Or check out Yoshi's Story on the N64. There's also Yoshi's Woolly World on Wii U and 3DS, and Yoshi's Crafted World coming 2019 to the Nintendo Switch. Alright, that does it for Yoshi on the NES. Don't count your dinosaur eggs before they hatch, and thanks for watching.